Yeah, when voters approved Prop 57, CDCR said inmates would earn early release credits for rehabilitation, good behavior, and education milestones, and would lose credits for bad behavior. But critics argue that's not the case anymore, and there's little transparency, pointing to mass shooting suspect Smiley Martin as a prime example.
Less than a year before the deadly Sacramento mass shooting, suspect Smiley Martin was deemed too risky to be paroled. According to his parole denial, he was found guilty of battery on a prisoner and allegedly engaged in other criminal activity while incarcerated. He had more than 5 years left on his 10-year sentence when he was denied release. Yet less than a year later, detectives say these images allegedly show Martin firing into a crowd at rival gang members with a fully automatic weapon classified as a machine gun. So how was Martin out of prison the night of the Sacramento mass shooting? Well, he'd been serving time for domestic violence, which isn't necessarily classified as a violent offense under California law. So, despite a prior violent felony conviction and alleged violence in prison, he was still considered a non-violent offender, meaning less than a year after CDCR denied his parole due to his risk of violence and criminal activity, the agency released him anyway, saying Martin earned credits under Prop 57. But they won't reveal that calculation.
They're doing it in secret because they don't want to be called out and pointed out that they're doing it wrong.
The public has a right to know what these people are doing to rehabilitate themselves.
District Attorneys Jeff Reisick and Vern Pearson argue under the voter-approved Prop 57, the credits were supposed to be earned for good conduct and rehabilitation. But they believe nearly everyone is getting the credits now, whether or not they were earned.
And that's really the dirty secret on these enhanced credits they are awarding to people like Smiley. They didn't earn early release.
And the DAs believe CDCR is purposely hiding the calculation for felons like Martin.
They can't provide an adequate explanation of how they calculated those credits.
CDCR denied our public records request for Martin's calculation, saying only incarcerated people can receive credits for good behavior as well as program participation and completing educational programs. But records obtained through public court filings reveal less than a year before his release, the parole board found he had, quote, limited program participation, including 1 month of dining room work, 4.5 months of computer technology courses, 6 months of a substance abuse program, and just 12 hours of a victim awareness program.
You're the former secretary of CDCR. You helped establish the initial Prop 57 credit system. Do you believe Smiley Martin demonstrated genuine reform and should have been allowed to walk free?
And from what I've read, he did not participate in any meaningful rehabilitative programs.
Former CDCR Secretary Ralph Diaz retired during the pandemic, so he hasn't seen Martin's full credit calculation. But based on the public information provided, even he's confused.
I can't calculate how he got out in the time that he did based on what I've seen.
Still, he's a firm defender of CDCR and what's supposed to be an earned credit program.
I believe in rehabilitation, and I have seen many individuals change their life. They've changed their criminal behavior. They've changed their criminal thinking. They've earned their release. I don't see that applied in this case.
He admits he's concerned about the lack of transparency and believes new legislation may be necessary to compel CDCR to disclose the credit calculations to the voters who passed Prop 57 in the first place.
They've earned the right to know these calculations.
Now, CDCR won't confirm Martin's credit calculation, but based on standard good conduct and rehabilitation credits for all nonviolent offenders, Martin could have been released when he was without participating in any rehabilitation programs at all. Check this out. He was sentenced to 10 years or 3,650 days. CDCR says he got 508 days of pre-sentencing credits. That's twice the time he actually spent in jail before sentencing. Now, that would have cut his sentence to 8.5 years by his very first day in prison. Then, under Prop 57, CDCR gives 50% good conduct credit to essentially all nonviolent offenders, cutting the remaining sentence in half, which would bring us to a little over 4 years and 3 months. Then, everyone was eligible for 12 weeks of, quote, extraordinary conduct credit during the peak of COVID, since most rehabilitation programs were canceled, bringing us to about 4 years and 1 month, the length of Smiley Martin's actual incarceration. Now, notably, this is what he or anyone would have received with full good conduct credit. Keep in mind, Martin is accused of criminal activity while in prison.